am having, Mac.
Sonic the Hedgehog is better than Shadow the Hedgehog. Before I dive deep into my reasonings, I just want to be honest with you, this has nothing to do with physical prowess, although that might be one of the reasons why Sonic is better than Shadow, but overall I'm talking about Sonic as a character, and of course physical ability does play into it, but it's not the only thing I'll be looking at here in this video. And as always, before I dive into everything and get started here, this is subjective, so what you see here is just my opinion, or a opinion. Of course, I feel the need to say this because I don't need angry people in the comments section trying to destroy me, because I really do love both of these characters, so yeah, I'm not trying to step on nobody's toes here. That aside, one of the biggest reasons why I believe Sonic is better than Shadow is the fact that Sonic is an organic creature. In other words, he was not created in a lab. Shadow is dubbed as the ultimate life form, but I find that kind of, I don't know, a little weird because he was actually created by man, but Sonic is a completely organic creature, meaning that he is a natural creature. He's not something that is constructed by another individual, at least not in the same sense that Shadow the Hedgehog was. Now this is rather difficult to talk about because Sonic doesn't really have a direct origin story like Shadow the Hedgehog does, and even if he does, it's something that really isn't talked about very much. Sonic is just kind of there. And not that we need any explanation for it, but even still, the fact that Sonic was not made in a lab and is as powerful as he currently is, that says something. Sonic is this natural, organic creature that can just constantly get stronger and stronger, and he even says this in games like Sonic Forces, where he's like, unlike mechs, I can grow. And it's just so powerful because it just shows that with your natural given abilities, you can do anything, especially if you're Sonic the Hedgehog. Speaking of being able to do anything, Sonic has fought and beaten stronger villains than Shadow the Hedgehog has. Sonic has beaten Dr. Eggman his fair share amount of times, and that's not to say Shadow the Hedgehog couldn't do it, but being able to consistently do it as much as Sonic does, and also taking down other greater villains like Dark Gaia, The End, and so many others, it just goes to show just how powerful this Hedgehog is. Also, this really does add to the fact that Sonic continues to get stronger. When we look at villains like Perfect Chaos, Sonic at first needed the power of all 7 Chaos Emeralds, but in later titles like Sonic Generations, he doesn't need any of them to take down Perfect Chaos, and he's doing just fine without it, not even breaking a sweat. Now, it is important to realize that Sonic didn't do most of these villain takedowns on his own. Like The End, he had help of Sage, and same goes for Dark Gaia with having the help of Light Gaia, but even still, we can't say that Sonic wasn't a major player in taking these bosses down. And even then, I would have to say that I feel like making these friendships and connections and using them to help defeat the bosses in front of you is really a testament in itself of Sonic's capabilities. Sonic can make friends very easily. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like in every single Sonic game, Sonic is making a new friend, and in the end, it really helps him out in taking down the final boss. But it's not like Sonic makes these friendships for selfish reasons like trying to help him, take down that boss, but more so just because that's the kind of person or hedgehog that Sonic is. He's always looking for new friends and making those friends and doing so many crazy cool things. Actually, I feel like I might have to retract my own statement. I'm not sure if it's that Sonic is always looking for friends, or the fact that people are just so easily gravitated towards Sonic, and in turn, that's what causes him to make so many friends in the first place. That said, that is an amazing quality to have. Being able to just constantly attract good and like-minded people around you on a consistent basis is something that Sonic is able to do consistently. I hate to be that guy, but that's not something that Shadow the Hedgehog normally does. He usually keeps a small, close-knit group of friends that really isn't even considered friends sometimes, like Rouge and Omega. But one of the biggest reasons why Sonic is able to do this that's really unique and unlike Shadow the Hedgehog is that he constantly and consistently puts the needs of others before his own. I think one of my favorite examples of this is actually the most recent Sonic game at this point in time, Sonic Frontiers. Throughout the entirety of the game, Sonic is basically poisoning himself just to save his friends. This self-sacrificial attitude that Sonic possesses in this game is actually pretty much the same throughout the entirety of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. Sonic always does stuff like this, and I feel like that's a really strong indicator of Sonic the Hedgehog's moral compass. It's really unchanging. He's confident in his morals. But when it comes to Shadow the Hedgehog, I feel like it took him some time to really figure things out, and that's why Sonic might be better than Shadow. Sonic just kind of always knew what was good and what was right, whereas Shadow, he had some difficulty in that area. This is not to condemn someone who is confused in their situations like Shadow the Hedgehog, but more so to praise Sonic for always being confident in who he is and what he's supposed to do. Going back to the example I used prior with Sonic Frontiers, Sonic again is essentially poisoning himself to save his friends, and he's also told relentlessly by Sage to leave the island. But Sonic, obviously, refuses to do so because he believes what he's doing is the right thing to do. It's Sonic's sense of confidence and moral compass in the first place that enables him to make friends so easily, without really even trying. Sometimes it's pretty cool to see Sonic in games where he's not really talking with other characters like Tails or Knuckles, and he's basically kind of on his own like the storybook games, because it kind of forces him into areas where he has to make new connections, and to see him do that so easily, it's always so astounding. Although that might also be due in part to some of the characters looking like those in Sonic's real world, or, the world that Sonic's from. You get what I'm trying to say. The final reason that I thought Sonic was better than Shadow that I thought was worth mentioning in this video is the fact that Sonic has beaten Shadow before, on multiple occasions. The first one I want to talk about here is pretty undisputable, I think. It's in Sonic Generations when the two characters fight and Sonic wins. The only possible way that Sonic could have progressed forward in this game and saved everyone and made the world whole again is if he beat Shadow. So yeah, I don't think you can argue this one. But going to Sonic Adventure 2, I've seen arguments on both sides saying that Shadow won or Sonic won, but I'm gonna put my money on Sonic because we wouldn't have seen this cutscene if Sonic lost. And after the fight between Shadow and Sonic, if you play on the Team Dark side, you don't really see a cutscene concluding Shadow's story. It just kind of picks up with him in the final story with Shadow kind of looking outside the arc, and that's really where it ends there. Which means I don't think Shadow won this one. Sonic could have only gotten to this point if he were to beat Shadow. So, in other words, he beat Shadow. But ladies and gents, those are just a couple reasons why Sonic is better than Shadow. But what do you think? Do you have any other reasons, or do you think that Shadow is better than Sonic? Because I actually made a video talking about that as well, that Shadow is in fact better than Sonic. You should definitely go check that out if you haven't already. But which argument did you think was stronger if you saw both videos? I'd love to see what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. That said, thank you all again so much for watching. This is Sonic signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?